Welcome aboard the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. Hope everybody had a spectacular weekend. Why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? We're getting ready for the NFL's, OTAs. Okay, I know everybody. But then again, we dropped the schedule and we built shows around that. The NFL draft, the combines, pro days. Do you realize how close we are to July 27th? That's around where we see the NFL training camps open up. We're going to have an NFL Hall of Fame game. We're going to have inductions into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And most importantly, fans in the stands. Listen how that sounds. Fans in the stands again. Man, I'll tell you, as an ex-player, and I've had the fortune of doing this, I'm being on both sides of the mic. Okay? Yeah, I've had people put the mic in front of me and ask me the dumbest questions, and I've put a mic in front of people and asked them the dumbest questions. And I never realized how important the fan bases were, both collegiately and also NFL-wise. But, man, I'll tell you, it is going to be – you talk about a 4th of July every day. It is going to be like a parade every day, seeing fans going through the turnstiles again at the Link or MetLife or Raymond James. That Thursday night game is going to be off the charts. How about that October 3rd game? I've already got that thing circled on my calendar when it's going to be a Sunday night game. Patriots go and host the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. I said this last Friday, $13,000, man, is the highest ticket for that game. And the lowest is already $1,300. Man, they're just anticipating being all together again. I've said this on my national radio show, and I want you guys to understand what I think football brings to people and what being in a 75,000-seat stadium means to our country, especially right now. Can you name me any other vehicle? Name me another vehicle where you can get Republicans and Democrats in the same building. Nobody cares about your politics or your race or religion. The only thing you care about is your civic pride teams. What do you think the Eagles are going to do this year? What do you think the Cowboys are going to do this year? What do you think Alabama? Is Alabama really the favorite to win the national championship again? Nobody talks about politics. You don't sit there and go, dude, if you're a Democrat, you can't sit next to me. Nobody cares. They only care that you're Eagle fans, or they only care that you're Giant fans or Buck fans. Got to throw the Bucks in there. Right? That's the beautiful thing about being in a stadium and having the fans back. We see so much of that stuff in our communities where people are fighting and people are divided. Nobody's divided in an NFL stadium. Everybody's together, man. I think it's one of the only places left in our country where everybody sits in the stadium and roots for their favorite team, their civic pride sports team, community pride. That's what the fans are going to bring back to football this coming fall. We got kind of a little taste of it in the Southeastern Conference and in the Big 12 last year, but not so much in the NFL, maybe a little bit in the Super Bowl, right? I think the NFL had like 25,000 first responders, but other than that, man, not really anybody was at these games. It was weird, and you saw it and you noticed it, right? It's funny. People always ask, you know what's funny? People always ask me, did you ever notice the fan when you were playing? And I said, of course you do, man, especially when it's loud as hell in them places. Absolutely. Hey, and when it's quiet like that, you totally notice it. You totally did. All right. Let's move on to some of the stories. And there's so many. By the way, I say one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in the history of the National Football League will be on the show today. His name is Wade Phillips. Wade, you talk about being an absolute guru when it comes to putting defensive schemes together. He is one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. Does a little work with Fox Sports. He's an analyst with them. And the defensive coordinator who won a Super Bowl, I believe in Denver, as a coordinator there, will join us. And we'll talk a little bit about how do you defend young quarterbacks, or how would you defend Tom Brady, or how would you go after a guy like Jalen Hurts in his second year? We'll talk to, in my opinion, one of the greatest defensive corners. I say top 5, clearly in my lifetime. And also, in the second hour, we'll talk to our friend Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight. How did the NFL become so big? These television networks now invest almost all of their resources into putting NFL games on. The National Football League is the #1 content provider for places like CBS, ABC, Disney, NBC. I mean, there's no other bigger shows that go on their networks other than the NFL. How did it get there? We'll talk to Kevin, get his thoughts on what that October 3rd game will mean. I mean, my God almighty, you talk about like Oscar ratings. That's what we're going to get. We'll talk with Kevin Frazier. That'll be in hour number 2. Also, today we're going to play thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't know if you guys know what that is, if you have ever followed me on my national radio show, or if you've ever heard me do this. I do thumbs up, thumbs down. These are the teams now after rookie mini camps, and now they're getting ready for a veteran OTA in about a week, and then they get ready for the July camp. Folks, we're here. 90 guys are getting ready to go to camp. They've picked their 90 guys. We're going. We're moving. They've already signed a boatload of guys. They got their free agents. 90 guys that went from 80 to 90 when it comes to their roster. These teams are set. What teams got better from the last game of the regular season in 2020, and what teams did not? We will look at that here in a couple minutes. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's how we're going to do it. Okay. Let's start with this. So the beautiful thing about all the great shows that you watch, whether it be Undisputed or Colin Cowherd or any of these other guys that have these national platforms, you hear people make opinions on something. And, you know, I get so much content just on people's responses. And it's not so much what they're saying, but when I hear somebody throw this out. So the Dallas Cowboys this year, and their expectations moving forward. What do you think the expectations of the Dallas Cowboys are? I heard one guy actually, LeVar Arrington, make the comment that, hey, if they make it to the playoffs, they have a successful season, that's going to be a successful year. I started thinking, I don't really think LeVar knows who the owner of that football team is and what he just did. I got 42 million reasons why that is no longer just good enough to get to the postseason. You paid a quarterback $42 million, and in my opinion, you overpaid Dak Prescott. But that's the market value. That's what people keep telling me. That's the market value. Hey, and for the record, I have become more of a fan of Dak Prescott and how he's handled himself than what I was prior to him getting injured. I love everything about the kid. I heard Dan Mullen talking about how he improved as a quarterback, how he improved as a player at Mississippi State when Dan was there. Really, that story is one of the best stories I've heard. You know, they had him like at a high school camp, and Dan Mullen went like this kid doesn't have it. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Then they gave him a couple more things to work on. Then the strength and conditioning coach comes over and goes, Coach, man, you got to sign this guy. This guy's special. Something about this guy. He moves people. He makes people want to play with him and for him. Dan's like, man, I wish he could throw the ball better. They gave him a couple more skill set things to work on. Guy came back. Dan goes, this kid improved so much. And what did he do? Gave him a scholarship. A couple years there, you know, didn't see greatness, but you know what he saw? Improvement, massive improvement. So by the time that Dak Prescott left Mississippi State, Dan Mullen goes, I can't believe from where I had this guy 5 years ago to where I left him and then sent him to the NFL, he's only going to continue to get better and better and better. My opinion, Dak Prescott's one of these late bloomer guys. Okay? He's just learning the skill set of being a leader and being a quarterback in the NFL. And he's getting better and better and better. Remember, it's not where you're drafted in the draft. It's if you get an opportunity to play in the league, what you do with that opportunity. How many times have you seen later draft choice guys, especially at the quarterback position, Joe Montana? I mean, think of this for a minute. The two greatest quarterbacks, or considered the two greatest quarterbacks in pro football history, were not drafted in the first 2 rounds. Joe Montana's a 3rd-round draft choice, and Tom Brady's a 6th-round draft choice. Those two dudes right there have 11 Super Bowls between them. And they were not 1st or 2nd-round draft choices. Montana was told he had a noodle arm, and Brady said, hey, I'm here. You know what everyone said? Who are you? This guy had a noodle body when he showed up at the camp, when he showed up at the combines. Every time the draft comes around, he posts that combine picture of him. Looked like a school teacher somewhere. So Dak is one of these guys that has elevated himself. Do I think the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders? No. But when you pay a guy $42 million a year, friends, the expectations in your building are, get this, I need to get my value for this. Anytime you elevate an NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, a CEO of a company, when you start paying a guy $25 million, $42 million a year, so you think just getting to the dance is cool? That's not what I'm thinking. When you get an opportunity to, and you pay someone that kind of money, my point is this, hey, you better deliver. Because you know what people will look back on Dak Prescott's career and say? You're Tony Romo 2.0. But do you know what the only difference is? Tony Romo was an undrafted free agent who exceeded every expectation when he came out of college. Tony Romo ends up being the Cowboys' all-time leading passer in stats. Not that that's a big deal to me because I could care less about stats. They're for dudes that sit around at a bar on a Friday with other dudes and dicks and play fantasy football. Okay? Not for me. I don't care about stats. I care about winning. And Tony Romo delivered everything, man. He over-delivered. Undrafted free agent. Turns out to be that guy. Hey, man, you couldn't ask Tony Romo to do any more than what he was capable of doing. I know people said, well, Romo never delivered a Super Bowl. Well, the expectations on Tony Romo was he wasn't even supposed to make the NFL, let alone be a starter, let alone be the starter at the Cowboys. I mean, you have to put everything in perspective on what's being asked of you, okay? Like, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the ultimate overachiever. Ultimate. 6th-round draft choice, they didn't even like him. At Michigan, Drew Henson and those other stiffs that Lloyd Carr was putting in front of him, they never wanted Brady. I don't care what Michigan pretends to do now, or all the people in college football tell you what they thought of Tom Brady at Michigan. Oh, Tom was such a leader. No, he wasn't. Nobody in that organization at any time thought much of Tom Brady. Even when he started winning ball games, he wasn't even the starter going into his final year at Michigan. They did everything they could to try to recruit around him and bring other people in. When they realized that they finally had the guy, it was too late. He had limited starts. You want to hear something that's even more absurd? Tom Brady and Joe Montana will never, ever go into the College Football Hall of Fame, ever. And this is a testament of Notre Dame and Michigan. You had those two guys. Both of them have national championship rings in college. And they're not going to the Hall of Fame in college football, ever. Because there's a parameter where you have to have been on a first-team All-American team for you to go into the Hall of Fame. That's like a priority. Instead of looking at who you are, what you meant to college football, what you meant to your team, did you win, did you not win? They've got like a benchmark. You've got to be an All-American. That's on the schools, man. The schools failed those guys. I tell people this all the time, and I'll get back and I'll circle back to Dak here in a minute. I keep hearing people tell me, well, Justin Fields landed in the right place with Chicago. Justin Fields, it will be a bust in the NFL, in my opinion. I don't see it. Why would I see it? Name me a game where you went, man, that guy was just unreal. I mean, Northwestern? He actually sucked this year in the Big Ten championship game. I didn't think he played that hot. Against Indiana in Bloomington. Indiana? Who's that? I thought they played basketball only. Indiana's got a football team? Great. Okay. He threw 3 picks in that game. And in college football, windows are wide open. Wide open. And I say this about Ryan Day and Urban Meyer. We'll see what Meyer does as a head coach at Jacksonville. You had Joe Burrow in the building. You had Joe Burrow sitting in the quarterback room. Get this, with Dwayne Haskins, with Justin Fields. He was transferring from Georgia. And you turned and looked at Joe Burrow and said, you're not good enough to start here at Ohio State, even though the kid's from Ohio. Joe Burrow's an Ohio kid. And they looked at him and said, you're not good enough to play here, man. You may get some snaps, you may get some garbage time, but you're not playing here. So Burrow had to transfer. Goes to LSU, and he does that magical season, wins the Heisman. He wins the national championship. And most importantly, you know what he wins? The money belt. He's the number 1 overall draft choice for the Bengals. And now he's the face of the Bengals. Oh, and by the way, the Bengals do play in Ohio. You could have had the perfect storm if you were the Buckeyes. Local kid comes home to try to resurrect the Cincinnati Bengals. No way. They thought they knew better in Columbus. Justin Fields was the guy, and Dwayne Haskins, that's your evaluation? We'll see. We'll see. When I see Dak, I look at Dak and I go like this. He's getting better and better. But you see, here's why Dak won't win. And I want to be cool with this because I love the Jones family. I really do. I love the Jones family. And I have great respect for them. I was in Jerry Jones's first training camp at Thousand Oaks. I've posted our pictures together with the Cowboys when I was there for my cup of coffee. And working for Jerry and being around Jerry is one of the coolest things, and Stephen Jones, you can possibly have. It's a first flight organization. They do everything for the players. They make the players comfortable. They do everything for the families. It's really an absolute cool place to work for. I enjoyed my time working and playing for Jerry Jones. I started a couple preseason games. I started the very first game for him. I was against the San Diego Chargers. We came out to San Diego, and it was Jimmy Johnson's very first game. Though those two were sitting there, and those guys were just great. But the reason that Dak's not going to make it and win a Super Bowl is because Jerry, again, you know, I'll give you guys, and again, this all goes into the $42 million that Dak Prescott is going to make this year. He can't just, you can't just do what LeVar Arrington says. Well, you know, if he has a successful season, if he makes it to, dude, that's not good enough. There's a price tag on everything now. Everything raises. Expectations raise. When you've got stuff like this, expectations will always raise, especially when you're putting a price tag of $42 million there. But see, Jerry, what he's done is Jerry's quest to be a champion is now, in my opinion, it's now blinding his insight to allow people to evaluate positions, coaches. Jerry's so involved, he thins himself. And here's what I mean by that. When Jimmy Johnson was the head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and this all pertains to Dak here and winning, Jimmy did not do one play call ever in the Dallas Cowboys history, his 5 years in Dallas. He never at any time called a play. That wasn't Jimmy's deal. His position was, I hired the coach to do that. Jimmy was involved in player personnel. He had a right-hand man. His name was Bob Ackles. It wasn't Jerry Jones. It was Bob Ackles and Jimmy. Bob Ackles would come to Jimmy and say, here are the names that are available that are going to be out in free agency. What guys do you want to target? And Bob would know the type of guy that Jimmy liked. They would circle. The whole Charles Haley thing. I don't know if all of you know how that thing worked out. Okay, George Seifert, this is one of the greatest and most amazing stories of all time. After Bill Walsh left, George Seifert got the job, right? Charles Haley couldn't stand could not stand George Seifert. Well, guess what he did in one meeting? He leaves the meeting. Are you listening? He stands on George Seifert's car and he urinates on his hood. George Seifert ran to Carmen Policy's room and he said, get this son of a you-know-what out of here. They called it 1 in 15 Dallas Cowboys. Bob Ackles goes to Jimmy. Charles Haley, you're not going to believe it. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings. They want to trade him to us. Jimmy went like this because the 49ers thought Jimmy was a joke. I'll take him. He called Haley. Jimmy did and said, you come here, man. I expect you to just be who you are. Don't go over your skis and you'll have a great time there. He ends up winning 2 more Super Bowls. 3 more, excuse me. Ends up winning 3 more Super Bowls. 5. Jimmy took him. Changed the franchise forever. That's how he did it. And get this, there was no Jerry Jones in the room. There was none of that. Jerry was nowhere to be seen in the room. He didn't run his trades. You know the Herschel Walker trade? He never, as much as Jerry likes to tell people that was run through him, it was never run through him. Jimmy made that decision up when Coach Johnson was on a run with the rest of his guys. We had Dave Wannstedt on with us a couple days ago, and we went over that. Jerry was never involved, but Jerry likes to change the narrative around, trying to, tell people that he was involved. He was never involved in any of that. So he gets in the way. Well, by the way, Wade Phillips was the head coach of the Cowboys. We will ask Wade that question, and we'll get his thoughts on that. Also, thumbs up, thumbs down. What teams did well? What teams did not do so that hot in the offseason? We'll do that. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
D-A-T-L-E-S-E-O! Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. This is always the best time of the year because coaches right now, are getting themselves ready for both the college and the pro seasons. They've got their roster set, guys. They've got their roster set. Now it's about filling in whether or not you're looking for depth. Maybe there's going to be some positions that will have battles. These coaches, look, like I said too, economics plays a factor, especially when you're talking about the NFL level. And you know what the big thing you have to do nowadays in college football? You've got to recruit. You've got to recruit the guys that you even have on your own roster nowadays. Okay? So we'll get to all that here, but I got to tell you, folks, I've been around some of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time, and I've said this before about Wade Phillips. Coach Phillips is arguably, in my lifetime, one of the top 5 guys when it comes to putting schemes together, evaluating talent, and you want to know about how to stop young quarterbacks? Here is your guy. He joins us now here, the son of bum, Wade Phillips. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks.
Hey, Coach, that's one of my favorite Twitter handles, the son of bum. I mean, you know, Coach, you've had so many great people in your life that have given you influence. What was Coach Phillips? What was the biggest influence besides being your dad, obviously, but as a coach? What was that one thing he implemented with you when it came to being a coach in the NFL?
I think it's just working with people. You know, he had such an easy way of working with, not handling people, but working with people. And I think that's the key part of it.
You know, Coach, you know, I tell people this all the time, man. I mean, communication with kids and communication with players is one of the most important things. And Jimmy Johnson was my coach, and he used to look people in the face all the time, Coach. And he used to tell people, if you want to be constructive with someone, get to know them personally, know a little bit about them, know the guys on your roster. If you want to be destructive, just start hollering at people. So it was a priority for coaches. And I think those are the great ones, Coach, that have a personal relationship with some of the guys that are on their roster. It might be tougher in the NFL to do that because of salary caps and guys, the roster changes so much, but still, it really starts with communicating.
Yeah, life and football are about people. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what life's about. It's about communication with your spouse or your friends or your people you're working with. It all goes together.
Coach, I was just before I brought you on, I said right now, pretty much the coaches in the NFL know they're 90 guys. What are you looking at as a staff right now? As you're coming out of the rookie OTAs, you're going to have another veteran organized team activity. You're going to have a mini camp. Then you're going to have training camp in July. What are you looking at right now as a staff as you look at your 90-man roster?
I think you're trying to fit everybody in. I mean, you got a good look at if you got to look at the rookies, you know, you get to kind of see if they're what you thought they were on film and on video. So I think just arranging, you know, your roster as to who's competing where and maybe who's going to help you.
Coach, I remember going through all these training camps, and, you know, I've asked so many coaches this, and to me it seems that you guys do this. You just like dump every single thing on these guys mentally as much as you possibly can. And then you're trying to figure out how much these guys can retain when it comes to the playbook, when it comes to routine, when it comes to all that stuff. Is that kind of how it is right now? You want to see how much they can retain in knowledge.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. I take the different approach. I mean, you know, it's all about making mistakes and not making mistakes. And so my job is to teach. And so, you know, we put things in, but we try to go at the pace where I've always gone at the pace. If we put in a coverage and we're going to put in another one the next day, another one the next day, another one the next day, if that first coverage if they don't grasp it the first day, I repeat it, and I repeat it again until we get that down. And I think that's our teaching progression. I think is important. We've had a lot of teams that I've been with that we've been successful early, first year, and I really believe it's because we didn't throw all that stuff at them where we lose people. And you know, you can give you know, they always worry about young quarterbacks. getting too much stuff. Well, young players are the same way. It's not just the quarterback. So if you want a young player to play, he's got to know what to do. I mean, any player has to know what to do. And so that's my first priority, is to teach him what to do, and then how to do it.
Coach Belichick, he mentioned something to me before about this, and he goes like, when I'm looking at as a defensive scheme and I'm looking at an offense, it's funny you should say that, because he goes, I want to find the guy who knows the least amount of what is being asked of him. He'll look at guys on knowledge, and he'll look at someone and go, if there's a free agent, or like you said, Coach, if there's a rookie who doesn't really understand that's going to be a point of attack. And that's going to be how they look at it. Because with all free agency movement now, again, that's kind of a philosophy that he had, where the knowledge of that kid and that player is one of the areas that we're going to hit on. Is that how you're looking at it? That's why you go over your style instead of, say, maybe inundating these kids with style, because you got to know where to line up when you get to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. There's no doubt about that. I mean, because offenses are complicated, defenses have to be complicated. But I do think the teaching progression, when I got the job with Dan Reeves the first time in Denver, and one of the things he asked me when he interviewed me, he said, do you play young players? I thought it was a trick question, and I said, of course. And he said, okay, you got the job. He asked me some other stuff, but you got the job. And then I asked Mike Nolan and Charlie Waters, who were there, I said, why did he ask me that? And he said, because, the staff before didn't play young players because it took them too long to get them ready. I said, well, I always play the best player, whether they're first year or 10-year. I mean, and we had a young linebacker named Michael Brooks, who his first year didn't play, and the next year he was in the Pro Bowl. So, I mean, we let him play, and he could play. So I think that I always learned something from that, was really, hey, you've got to get it taught to whoever you have, but you got to get your best players on the field, if they're young or old.
Coach, head coach in Dallas you were, and I want to get your thoughts. I asked Jimmy Johnson what his time was in Dallas with Jerry, and he goes like this: I just wish I had allowed Jerry to play more with his toy. And he goes, I wish that I was just more of, a politician. He goes, you've got to have that dynamic. And Jimmy regrets that. He's told me that before. How was your time in Dallas as the head coach? Did you enjoy working for Jerry Jones?
Yeah. I mean, he's and I'm sure Jimmy told you, I mean, when you're with the Cowboys and working for Jerry, you're part of the family. I mean, his whole family works in it, Jerry Jr. and Steven and Charlotte, they all work with the Cowboys. And so they include you in their family, and I always appreciated that. It's pretty neat, because with most owners, you don't know the owner. Of course, he's a general manager too, which is a different dynamic. But I always appreciated that about him, that you were part of his family. My wife, Laurie, flew to the games with them and flew back with them, Sometimes I flew back with him too, so we could talk about the game, afterwards. So, I love owners that want to win. He wants to win. Now, there's different ways to go about it. Some of them stay out of it. Some of them, like him, he's a general manager, so he's got to be in the middle of it. And he, for whatever people think, I mean, he's a football guy. He's been in football for a long, long time, and he played ball with Jimmy and those guys. So, I mean, it's not like he doesn't have any football background.
Absolutely. He played with Larry Lacewell and those guys at Arkansas.
Yeah.
And them dudes. And I played, and I had a cup of coffee with them too, Wade. I mean, I say the same thing. If you're a player, you're a coach, you're going to get the best of everything. I mean, the training facility, that place over at, when we were training at Thousand Oaks, it was all set up great. The Valley Ranch facility was state-of-the-art when I got there. I'd never seen anything like it. So the perimeter around it, I mean, he gives his players and coaches everything. But then when I see something like last year, Coach, when they went from a 4-3 to a 34, and I try to explain this, and you're the best guy to talk about this. When you're in a 3-4 defense, you don't have 43 personnel. And so when you're flipping that around and you're saying you want to go to a Mike Nolan 34 or you want to do that, no wonder the Cowboys got ran off the field last year, because 34 to 43 personnel are completely different. It's like Mars and the moon. Am I right when I say that? And that's kind of why they got in trouble last year.
Yeah, well, I've done it several times, So, when I went to Houston, they were 4-3 and they were 31st in the league, and we went to second to go into 3-4. When I went to San Diego with the Chargers, they were 4-3, and we had the first pick in the draft, and we won 12 games the first year, going to 3-4. So it can be done. They didn't do it well there, but I don't think it's all personnel. It's what you do with the personnel, certainly.
So you think maybe it's more so than it's not the scheme, it's the lack of having a defensive tackle, good inside linebackers, or guys who could set the edge. Because
it still comes down to players, but the 4-3 and an over 4-3 and or an under 4-3. The only difference in that and the 3-4 is the guy on the end of the line has his hand down instead of standing up. That's the only difference in that front. And so it's not that different personnel. People think now a 2-gap 3-4 team, that's different. I've always been a 1-gap 3-4 team to utilize the pass rush, basically. So we've always had a pretty good transition when we had to do that.
Hey, Coach, I'll tell you a quick story. So I get to the Buccaneers. They draft me 56th. Ray Perkins is there. I'd never played nose guard in my entire life. I'm a 3-gap, 1-gap guy. Jimmy used to just say, get up the field and get on TV. That's all he used to say. I got to Tampa Bay, and no, we want you to 2-gap. I'm like, okay, what's that now? Yeah, what you're doing is you're holding on to the guard or the center in front of you so the linebackers can make plays. I went, well, wait a minute. I'm a TV guy.
That's exactly right. That's
Coach, these young quarterbacks, as a defensive guy like yourself, and you see all these kids coming out of college today compared to what they were years ago, where it just took them years to be able to, become part of what that system was. Why do you think we're seeing these kids fit in a little bit better now than what we did years ago?
Well, everybody's throwing the ball in high school. I mean, they're starting in high school, and high school emulates college, which emulates, and everybody's wide open throwing the ball. I think, the first thing the quarterback needs to do, not handoff, but needs to be able to throw the football. So I think they're getting a lot more, at least passing, throwing the ball a whole lot more in high school and college now than they were before. And I think that's been a big factor.
A couple more questions for you here, Coach. With these young quarterbacks, what was the number one thing when you were putting your game plan together and your guys showed up on Wednesday and they got their game plan and they're looking at the game plan, they're looking at the last 3 games, the trends of what this particular team, what was the number one thing that you would want to go after with a young quarterback?
Well, there's several things. The first thing I want to know is, or I wanted to look at is if he had to call the protections or change protections, if he's involved in that, because, when you're going against a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady or somebody like that, you're not going to fool those guys. But if it's a young quarterback, I want to see if he can change the protection if he's the guy calling it. Now, some teams let the center or somebody else call the protections because they're young. But if they are calling the protections, I'm gonna show them one thing and do something else, basically, to start with, if they're doing that. Now, the main thing with me, I think, is accuracy of the young quarterback is how accurate he's going to be. So I'm going to play man-to-man against the guy. I'm going to play man-to-man and make him be really accurate. I'm not going to let him dink and dunk and throw zone stuff. They always say, hey, get him a few completions so he gets going, that kind of thing. I'm going to come out and play man-to-man against him and make him be accurate if he completes passes. And then there's a lot of other things you do, certainly. check his coverage recognition, play with him with the free. Most everybody, not just rookies, look at the free safety. Free safety goes to half. They're playing halves, and in the closed middle if he's going to the middle. So, we're starting to the middle, go to a half, get him like he's going to rush and then come back. Those kind of things. To test him on that stuff. And then I think the key thing, especially with young quarterbacks, is how they handle pressure or perceived pressure. So, if they think the pressure's coming, what are they going to do? And then drop out of it, or pressure the guy and see what he does. I'm not a big all-out pressure guy. I mean, I'm not a all-out blitz guy, but I do think you can give him a 6-man rush with one of the guys covering the back, which looks like a blitz, and see what they do and see how they handle that kind of pressure. So I think those things are key. Now you have to see what he can do too. I mean, if he can run with the football, then you got to make some adjustments there too.
Coach, I always can tell when a guy lacks the courage, and Baker Mayfield got better. And what I mean by that is early on in the year last year, you can see him when pressure came, he took off. All of a sudden, as week 8 and then on, he started having more courage in the pocket. Instead of going up the field, Coach, to try to get a first down, he was going laterally, trying to create passing lanes and moving the strong and free safety around. And you saw him getting better. And that was a sign for me. That's why I thought they picked the option up on him, Coach, was that, the young quarterback, he wants to take off and he wants to try to run for the sticks. But the good ones like Roethlisberger, benches floats back there, and he tries to move the free and strong, and he tries to find passing lanes. That, to me, is a sign, like you said. So patience back there, isn't it, on your defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, that's a key. That's a key. And that's why Mahomes is so good. Because when he came out, he was already doing that. He's scrambling around, but he's scrambling to throw the football and make a big play. And that's and he, he's really quick. And Mayfield really came along, like you said, he came along that way real well. And it takes some playing time with some guys are natural. It takes some playing time, and certainly the coaches have something to do with it. Oh.
Hey, Coach, I leave you with this. Jonathan Vilma said playing against a guy like Peyton Manning, man, you'd have to get down and you've got to be as patient as you can, because he's going to take that thing down to about 5 seconds on the play clock, and you're going to sit there, and then all of a sudden he has to set the blocking scheme. So he sets the blocking scheme, and Vilma goes, got him. And then they would go to their defensive schemes. So when you have a veteran linebacker like that, that's got to be essential, especially when you're playing against guys like Brady and Manning, because they're going to wait for you, aren't they? They're so patient there in the huddle, aren't they?
Yeah. Of course, we practiced against Manning with, when coach with him with the Broncos, and he would talk to the strong safety and say, hey, you're supposed to be up here if you're going to blitz, and stuff like that. If they staggered their stance or something, he'd see it, and they were coming. So, those guys, that's why those guys are Hall of Famers.
Absolutely. Coach, thank you so much for your time. What a great class lesson we just got here. Thank you so much.
You bet. You like my trophy back here?
Which one is that for? That's your Super Bowl trophy?
Yeah.
I love it. Look at that thing there, man. Holy cow, Broncos, right?
Yep.
Man, that's awesome. Do all the assistant coaches get one?
Oh, yeah. Well, you pay for it. But
Hey, Coach, thank you so much.
I enjoyed it, Dan. Thanks. Anytime.
You bet. That is the great coach, Wade Phillips. I tell you, one of the absolutely best defensive coordinators in pro football history right there. I do love that trophy. I wish I had me one of those. I only got national championship rings there. That's all I got there. We'll take a brief timeout and keep it right here on the National Football Show.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with JAKIB and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Welcome back. National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. Still to come, our friend Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight started at ESPN and Fox Sports. He's been now, I think, doing that show. Entertainment Tonight covers the Oscars and the Grammys, all that stuff, red carpet stuff. I think he's been doing Entertainment Tonight for now 15 years. Incredible. We both kind of like started our broadcasting career together. And we've been friends ever since, so we're going to hopefully run him down. We're going to effort him in the second hour, and we appreciate you being aboard here with us. By the way, it was great catching up with Wade Phillips. I say this to you all the time. You could never go wrong by hiring Wade as a consultant or your DC. You know, not every guy can make that transition, friends, from the defensive position as coordinator to the head coach. I don't think people understand how difficult that transition is. Bill Parcells tells you all the time, he had to go from being the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants when Ray Perkins was the head coach of the Giants, and he had to learn how to be a head. You have to learn how to be a head coach. That's just not something you just do this. Here, well, let me put the main headsets on here, and here we are here. I'm the head coach now. Oh, yeah, this is what – that's not how that works. That's not how that works, man. There's a transition because now you can't just be one centric side like Buddy Ryan was when he was the head coach of the Eagles. Buddy loved his defensive guys. Buddy turned the team over to Randall Cunningham on offense, gave him the team, and they ran with it. But you know what? They never ran into a championship setting. That football team underachieved because you know why? The head coach wasn't balanced. He just wasn't. Rex Ryan is another great example. Now, Rex didn't have the quarterback that Buddy had in Philadelphia, but you know, you've got to learn how to split your time. Special teams is just as important. I was telling you before we got Wade Phillips on, hey, one of the things that was so essential for Coach Johnson's success, he was the best delegator I have ever seen. When it came to his coaches coaching, his personnel people working, there was a system there. There was a hierarchy. There were two dudes that handled the personnel and evaluated the coaches and the players. And then there were guys who just coached. His coordinators all coached. Okay? There was no meddling. Now, Coach Johnson would throw, like in team meetings and then in, coaching staff meetings, he would throw his 2 cents in. But he hired a guy for a reason. You're going to be my offensive coordinator. You know, how many times do you see coaches or how many times do you see organizations? I keep using the Eagles as an example here. When Howie Roseman, the general manager of the team, is giving Doug Peterson the players that are going to play on Sunday and giving the head coach who's available, that's not helping. That's hurting. That's in the way. The head coach should be giving that sheet to the GM. This is who we're playing, not vice versa. You can't run a football team from the owner's box. That's what some of these guys don't get. Bob Kraft does not run the New England Patriots from the owner's box. Bob Kraft runs the Patriots from the sidelines because he entitles and empowers Bill Belichick. The Seahawks are a success. Why? The Seahawks are a success because Carroll runs the team from the sidelines. You know why the Green Bay Packers can't cross the finish line more so than not? It's because they're run by a committee. The Packers are run by a committee. You mean to tell me in 30 years you have two quarterbacks of Favre and Rodgers' statue and you win 2 Super Bowls? Ben Roethlisberger's won more than them combined. That's not success. How about this? That's actually when we go back and we look at Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers' career, just like I do Peyton Manning. Follow me here when I say this. Peyton Manning, you think he over or underachieved in Indianapolis? 1 Super Bowl title in Indy. With all that talent, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark. Okay, look at the running backs. Edgerrin James. Okay, he even had Marshall Faulk back there. Do you think he over or underachieved? Okay, he underachieved in Indianapolis. That team should have won numerous championships. I know you're in the era of Brady, but so what? You have all that talent. My God, can you imagine if Tom Brady had that Indy talent in New England? They would have had numerous undefeated seasons. So you give Brady, Reggie Wayne, and Marvin Harrison as his Y and Z, his 2 wide receivers. How do you think those guys perform? Good or bad? And, how about this? And you give him Edgerrin James, who, by the way, is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. Look at the Hall of Famers. Wayne's going to go into the Hall of Fame. Harrison's in the Hall of Fame. Edgerrin James, Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer. Tony Dungy, Hall of Famer. 1 title? That's why everybody they tell me, the 85 Bears, greatest football team ever. Really? You win 1 Super Bowl? That's not what I look at as the greatest team of all time. Maybe greatest season. But then I go like this. What about that Dolphin Shula team that went to 3 straight Super Bowls and won 2 of them, and 1 of them was undefeated? I don't know. Show me a better run in football history. Cowboys, 3-5, maybe. But then you go back to the Dolphins. Dolphins had undefeated season in that whole mix. So, I'm a guy that always looks, and this is the National Football Show. I look out at the history, and I'm never a prisoner of the moment. Okay? Is the New England dynasty the best dynasty ever? Yeah. Yeah. Is it the greatest franchise ever? No. It's not. That resides in Pittsburgh. Okay? Very few down times during Steeler time since 1969. And when you look at the success that team has had since 69, there's no other team. I tell you the stat all the time. Only 3 coaches since 1969. I mean, there's a reason that they are successful. So, yeah, I mean, there's no question. When you're looking at building consistency, it starts with management getting out of the way. By the way, don't you think Bob Kraft gets all the credit anyway? Do you have to have your name on the marquee? Watch this. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, they win all those Super Bowls. Who owns the team? Bob Kraft. Okay, well, Bob had something to do with that too, keeping everybody happy. Because you know what happens when you're around people too long? Ego gets in the way. Bob Kraft had to take these 2 guys sometimes and put them in corners. Brady not getting his way, Belichick not getting his way. Belichick with Spygate, Deflategate, had to hammer him for that because they lost millions of dollars in draft choices. Kraft came parachuting in. Why did we do this? Tom Brady wanted to get Garoppolo out, won a Super Bowl doing it, so it was all good. It was worth it. Getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo was worth it to Bob Kraft. You know why? He got a second rounder out of it, and you won a Super Bowl out of it. Brady wasn't finished, and Brady just proved another point. He's still not done. Even though Belichick, and get this, that's the strength of Bob Kraft. Bob Kraft sat back and went, Brady's not finished. He's not finished. I guarantee you Bill Belichick kept prodding, going, hey, it might be time to make that transition. It might be time. Head coaches, I don't want to say they pulled the ripcord, but what no one wants to have happen is you don't want to be the Broncos and the Dolphins post Marino and Elway when you're constantly searching for that dude. You know what I mean? Look at the Broncos. If it wasn't for Peyton Manning saying, I want to come play in Denver, who have they had at the quarterback position? Paxton Lynch's, the Brock Osweilers, the Brian Gracie's, the bums of football. And hey, how about this? Great. NFL, you made it. Wonderful. Man, but when you're talking John Elway, they've never been able to find that guy. Look at the Dolphins. They're praying Tua Tagovailoa is the guy. And when you're praying, then you're not sure. Remember what I tell you, praying, there's two things in the NFL that you never want to hear. I'm praying he pans out, and maybe. You know what my favorite words are? He is, and he's great. Okay? I hate that. Maybe. I'm praying he pans. What? Praying? Hey, I'm praying for the lottery tickets too every day. For the last 30 years, I've been praying for lottery tickets. Funny, that prayer's not been answered. Okay? And since Marino left, that prayer hasn't been answered too. Oh, unless you're counting Chad Pennington. Praying? Nobody wants to hear, hey, part of my game plan, oh, wait a minute, part of my offseason analogy is going like this. Hey, I'm praying that we really have a really great year. Oh, Jesus, me. I'm praying. No, man, we're going to have a great year because we got the pieces to get ready for the upcoming season. All right. We're going to hit on, and you know what? I don't even know why I do this, but I'm going to make a point to you on it. I got asked a question. I vote on the top 25 college football teams every week, okay? I vote on the top 25. And for the record, I vote on every single award in college football, every award. All the All-American teams, from freshman team all the way through everyone, the AP teams, all of them. I vote on every single team, and I vote on like the Outland. As you can see over here, I think my Outland ball, there's my Outland trophy ball in the corner over there. The little one with the blue thing. I was an Outland candidate back in the day. And so they put me on the voting panel to vote for the Outland trophy every year. It's that one right there in the corner there. Yeah, my senior year, I was an Outland trophy candidate, so they let me. So all these awards I vote on. And I got asked a question today, who are your top 5 teams? I'm like, oh, my God. Really? Who are my top 5 teams? I'm going to make a point to you. Also, I promised we would play thumbs up, thumbs down. Teams and how I see them going into their training camps and into their mini camps. Because right now, the 90-man roster is set, okay? We were just talking to Wade Phillips about that. Now what you're doing is there a battle at defensive tackle? Do we have to have a battle here? How many wide receivers are we going to carry? How many offensive linemen are we going to carry versus defensive tackles? Do we have a history of guys? You have to weigh all of that out. So we'll look at the teams, thumbs up, thumbs down, as we get ready for that. We'll do that in the second hour. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
Welcome to the Wildwoods. the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Hour number 2, Dan Sileo here on the National Football Show. Appreciate everybody coming aboard with us here as you do each and every single week now. Hey, man, all I can tell you is this. We got a powerhouse week lined up for you again. We have been knocking them down, and it has just absolutely been awesome, and we really appreciate everybody clicking on and viewing us later. You know the cool thing about this new vehicle that I'm doing? You know what's really cool about it? You might not be able to watch it 4 to 6 Eastern time, but you guys are like now, like watching it later, and you're still seeing people like watch our interviews that we do. We're so thankful, man, that you guys are able to do this. I even got when Howard Eskin came on a couple days ago, Howard goes like this. Hey, man, can you do me a favor? Can you get me the Frank Reich interview? And so I sent it to him. So he watched it along with his guys at WIP. And I got text messages from everybody, from Spike to everyone going, I can't believe that Frank Reich said that to you. And I was talking to Krause before we went on the air, and you could tell. And by the way, I love my guy, Frank. We've been friends for over 30 years. And Frank kind of like caught himself. He goes, no, maybe the owner, I don't remember anything. And I was like, it's all good, man. So I left it alone there. So all good, man. So we got a boatload of folks. And just a little insight for tomorrow, we're going to have Herm Edwards and Ron Jaworski on with us tomorrow. So we hope you'll join us. In this hour, we're going to try to effort our friend Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight to get his thoughts. And I started with Kevin years and years ago. And Kevin was working in radio, and he was doing it for the very first time. And he will tell you he just was not very good at it. But now Kevin's been like at Entertainment Tonight. It's got to be going on either 15 or 20 years. He's been there for a boatload of time. And covering the Oscars versus covering sports, you know, you got to know all these like really crazy names, especially the hockey guys like Estetiquetin or whomever, you know, versus watching and studying the best foreign film. So that's always a study. So it's really cool getting a chance to catch up with Kevin Frazier. So hopefully in this hour, we're going to be able to do that. All right. I promised you that we're going to do thumbs up, thumbs down. Teams that I think made a play and teams that I think that are going to surprise, and maybe some teams that are going to walk it backwards. You got to remember something as we set that up. The NFL is really great on how they love parity. What makes the league great is they love parity in the sport. So how do they set parity up? Well, the bad teams get the best players in the draft. The worst teams get the worst, or they get the softest schedule. Teams that don't do well, you're not going to get a brutal schedule. Okay? They're going to try to elevate you. They're going to try to help your organization, your fan base. Sometimes it's fool's gold because the next year when a team goes from being a 4-12 team and all of a sudden they're 12-4, the next year they're back to being 6-10, and people always look at it as that fool's gold. Kind of in a way, because it's the way the league is set up. The league loves parity. They're always worried about the bottom end of their respected league. That, unlike the NBA and Major League Baseball, who will let a team just sit there and die on the vine and nobody cares about them. That's why, quite frankly, when you look at the NBA's rating, do you know the NBA's ratings are down 48% since 2017? And you're trying to tell me, it's funny, I tune on and radio shows right now are actually talking NBA. Why? Half your audience is gone in 3 years, 4 years. 4 years, you've lost 50% of your audience. Why is that? Because they don't care about the rest of the league. They care about LeBron and the Nets, and maybe Steph, and maybe Philly, some maybe with Boston. But what about the other teams? Milwaukee, Orlando, Toronto. Okay, what about those teams? Sacramento. I don't care about those teams, man, because you know why? They're not ratings magnets. But in the NFL, you could be in market. It's funny about Green Bay. Green Bay's like market 287. It's like 287. But Green Bay's one of the highest rated football teams because of the logo. The NFL and the way they brand their league and the way the NFL just markets their league is just second to none. It really is. And there is no doubt we're going to see teams that we saw a year ago do well that aren't going to do so well this year because of what I just said. So I'm going to hit on that here in a minute. But I also teased coming into this hour here, I talked a little bit about college football in the top 5. I got asked who my top 5 teams are. And I get asked all the time to put a top 25 together. And I don't really do that. I don't really like to do that. I go, I'm not, there for that. I don't know what it's going to look like after the first month of the season. Injuries could play a factor. I don't know. I think preseason rankings in college football are bogus. However, they're becoming more like really, there's not really any surprise any longer. And I think this is where college football is starting to get in trouble here a little bit. All the things that I just mentioned to you about the NFL. You see, the cool thing about the NFL, you could be 9-7. Okay. Well, now with the new record, you could be 9-8. Okay. Or 10-9 now and win a Super Bowl. Because it's more about the teams that are playing the best in the last month of the season. If you want to play championship football in January, you got to be playing it in December. And sometimes teams get better. We see that all the time. But see, in college football, if you're not undefeated, or if you lose one game and you don't play in the Southeastern Conference, the chances of you winning a national championship are none. You have no chance of playing for a national title. Here, follow me here on college football. So I put these 5 teams here, and I did put them in order. It's not something that I like to do. We're a couple months out from the start of college football, September. By the way, Krause's going to love this one. Miami plays Alabama in the opener, okay? I'm not sure what to expect in that bad puppy. I'm going to leave it there for right now. Okay, I'm I'm just saying, okay? Okay. That there, let's just say this. When I was playing at UM, that would have been a great game. I don't know. We'll see what happens, okay? Woo! Man. Hey, if I'm not mistaken, I think that game's in Dallas. I think it is. I'm not sure. But here are my top 5. I got Ohio State. Watch this. I'm not going to make this dramatic here. Ohio State 5, Clemson 4, Georgia 3, and the only reason I'm putting Alabama 2 is just because they can't be that good again, can they? And I got Oklahoma number 1 because they're bringing back their Heisman Trophy guy and Spencer Rattler. It's the only reason. I mean, watch this. So know this. If Alabama wins the national championship again, they lost Mac Jones, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith, and Najee Harris, and those dudes in the O-line. And wait a minute. The whole team has been wiped out. The whole team. If Nick Saban wins the national championship this year, I think this will be his greatest coaching job that he's ever done in his coaching career. Listen what he lost again. He lost the Heisman Trophy winner in Jalen Waddle. Or excuse me, in Devontae Smith. He lost Jalen Waddle, who was actually drafted ahead of the Heisman Trophy winner. He lost Najee. He lost Mac Jones. Oh, and by the way, let's add this dynamic. He also lost Sarkisian, his offensive coordinator, to Texas. The entire situation. He can't be the best team in college football again. But my point about these 5 programs, I don't know, the last 20 years, can we go back and these are the same programs? Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Who gets a chance to kind of dip their toe in there? LSU dipped their toe a few times, right? Who, in the last 25 years, has dipped their toe in there? SC, 15 years ago? Give me teams that have dipped their toe in this thing. If you're not from the Southeastern Conference or one of these programs, what separates these 5? These are the 5 best programs in the country, by the way. Oregon's kind of like almost there, but not yet. Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Why are these programs every single year in the conversation when it comes to the national championship picture? Why? Because they got the best recruiters. They've got the best coaches. Do you know when you're a coordinator at one of these programs, okay, you're making almost $2 million a year. So the turnover that you have, when Steve Sarkisian left and went to Texas and took the Longhorn job, he was making $2.5 million a year as the offensive coordinator in Alabama and a tax-free state. Goes to another tax-free state. He doubled his money, by the way. He's now making over $5.5 million a year as the head coach of the Texas Longhorns. That's the only kind of jobs that you're going to leave for. You're not leaving for TCU, or you're not leaving for San Diego State, or you're not leaving for UCF. You're not going to any of those stiff programs. You don't have to. When you look at Venables, who's up at Clemson, why would that guy ever leave? He's making $3 million a year as the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Why would he leave? You wouldn't. You would wait for your dream job, maybe the Notre Dame job, by the way, which is not a gigantic paying job. But when you're one of those, that's the best coaches are here. Bill O'Brien, he gets fired with the Texans. Do you know whose coaching staff he's on right now? He's on Nick Saban's coaching staff. Bill O'Brien was offered numerous, and I mean numerous, opportunities to be a coordinator in the NFL and other places. He turned it down because he wanted to go to Alabama. Because what Saban is doing now down there with his new program, he's got a rehab program down there. If you flop at a job, he'll bring you down if you're one of his boys, and you're going to get Bill O'Brien's going to get a better job. You know, Bill O'Brien, I thought, really did a nice job at Penn State after the whole Paterno mess. Let's not forget who poured the cement to put the foundation down for where you see that program today. Okay, it was Brian. Bill O'Brien went into that joint, and he became the head football coach at Penn State. And for him to go in there and do the things that he did is pretty remarkable because he took over for Joe Paterno. And that was not the best scene. Remember what, the whole nightmare of the Sandusky stuff? He went in there and he righted the ship. I always think that Saban respected him for that. Had to have been the most difficult job you could have ever have signed up for. He took it. Why wouldn't you want a guy like that on your coaching staff? I would totally want a guy like Bill O'Brien on my staff. I'm not necessarily saying that Bill O'Brien's a great head coach, even though he did win division titles with the Texans. And remember, he won them with guys like T.J. Yates and those stiffs. Bill's not a bad coach, but the problem that Bill ran into the Texans, and when Fred and all those guys ended up, like the McNairs ended up trusting him too much, they gave him the job as general manager. And he was over his skis when he got the general manager's gig because he's the same guy that ends up sending DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona. And that's what really started the whole cascade of negativity between Deshaun Watson and the organization. You're going to give me $40-some-odd million a year, then you're going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins? We're trying to build a championship here. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to put a team together here. Again, so I really love – I'm not down on Bill O'Brien. It wouldn't shock me if he ends up getting another opportunity to coach in the NFL or college football at a big-time program. I think Bill's a good coach. He's just not a GM, and he stinks as a general manager. All right. But the point is, college football here, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, SEC. That's it. It's become too regionalized, too. Look at these teams. Midwest, South, 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 Midwest. Okay? And Oklahoma, kind of in the South, right? Nobody outside of Alabama, okay? Nobody outside of those places are going to be in a position where we're going to sit here and do this. Hey, man. Nobody in Los Angeles wants to watch Clemson and Alabama play for a national championship again. That's why it's so important to get USC back and up and running. When you got teams like Oregon, okay, that's not moving the needle. Okay? And college football and TV knows it. If you don't have a brand name, these are the biggest brands with Notre Dame. But the thing with Notre Dame is never going to win a national championship because you know why? They limit red shirts. Every one of these schools that I mentioned to you, as soon as you get in there, they look at that 20 recruiting class membership, and they're trying to recruit that team immediately. There's very few guys that they're going to get that they're going to play as freshmen when you're at Alabama or Oklahoma or Georgia. They're gonna redshirt you. Notre Dame, they don't do that because it's an academic school. Same thing with Stanford. But Notre Dame has the shiny helmet. Notre Dame has the big NBC package. Never going to win a national championship because when they get on the field against teams like Alabama, they beat the paste off them. They're never going to play for an opportunity to win that thing. They're never going to. But what they do is they bring television ratings. There are always Notre Dame fans around the country. And that's what the TV networks. Is it unfair? Absolutely. Notre Dame never belongs in a conversation for a national championship. But when it comes to television, they belong because you have to get the TV ratings. You're not going to get television ratings with Alabama, Georgia, and places like that. You're just not. All right. Thumbs up, thumbs down. We're trying to effort our friend Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight. I'll ask Kevin about that too because college football has become way too regionalized. We'll do all that next. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with JAKIB and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
D-A-T-L-E-S-E-O! Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Welcome back to the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. We're going to effort our friend Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight. Talk some TV with him about the NFL and their power. Okay? Okay, the NFL has just taken the baton from baseball, basketball, every other sport. Now, again, only in America because, I'll tell you, there's no question anytime you get World Cup or you get Premier League and you're talking that around the world, soccer will always be front and center around the world. There's no question. I mean, the Premier League ratings around Europe and everywhere around the world, especially when you get into World Cup play, those numbers, are some of the biggest numbers networks they crave. There's no doubt soccer, not in America per se, still working on that, but the NFL has done such a great job of really branding this sport here. The American sports fan now, the numbers, when you look at the top television shows of the year and you rank them, the NFL, we had Sean McManus on with us a couple weeks ago, the chairman of CBS Sports, and we were talking with him, and he was talking, it's the number one content provider for CBS. That includes all of their shows that they put on, their weekday lineup, what have you. When it comes to NFL football, the National Football League is their number one content provider when it comes to putting on television shows for CBS. And so the league, the way they've marketed it, and, we kind of went over this a little bit, a couple days ago when we were talking, look, you have schedule dropping, you have combines, you have pro days. They build this story up for you, and they do everything they possibly can to to give you a story. And that's kind of what the NFL is. It's like the ultimate reality television show. Okay? What are these guys going to do? Because now, look, now you have the rookie camps. They were a lot of the teams. I think there were like 25 teams a week ago that were all with the rookie camps. Now coming up, you have the actual mini camp with veterans and the rookies. Then in July, you have the ultimate training camp. That's when everybody gets together, and that's when everybody puts their team together. They get ready for the exhibition season, and it's up and going. So television, though, man, has made it happen. And my man, I got to tell you, I don't know how many years that Kevin Frazier has been at Entertainment Tonight, but his heart is sports. I know it is. He joins us now here. How you doing, Kev?
Dan, how are you, man?
Oh, good. Dude, how many years now at Entertainment Tonight?
Jeez, I got here in 2003, so it has been since 2000. God, it's almost, I'm coming up on 20 years. That's what's scary. It's scary. Listen, shh, don't say a thing. Just ride it out. Somebody might notice, somebody might realize, and they'll be like, get him the hell out of here. No, let's not mess around.
Absolutely, man. Hey, by the way, he's 29, just so everyone out there keeping score. Right. Kevin's 29.
I'm still young on the outside.
Hey, Kev, I was just talking about the NFL and the television ratings, and we had Sean McManus on with us a couple days ago, the chairman of CBS Sports. The NFL has now become the #1 content provider for CBS and other networks. How has that happened? How did they take over from, say, Major League Baseball into being this conglomerate now where every network is paying billions of dollars to put that stuff on their network?
Well, let's even go back to remember that networks have been built by the NFL. And you go back to when Fox started. What was one of the first things that Rupert did? He went out and he procured some of the NFL to help push that slate of new programming and shows he had. And that helped get Fox over the hump. You know, it's funny, when I used to walk into the building at Fox Sports, we used to joke that was the building that the football program built, that Howie and Terry and those guys and JB and Jimmy Johnson, that was the building they built. And that's true because football is a major driver. And sure, ratings were down a little, but sports ratings in general are the one thing that you can count on to go up because people are tribal. They love their teams. They will always follow their teams. And if you look at it now with streaming and everything being more accessible, people want to see their teams. They may not be able to go into the stadium and pay the $200 it costs to get a seat, but they doggone sure will tune in to see it. And then with now the NFL package, the NBA package, I'm an MLS package guy. So you look at all these different sports drives TV, and the NFL is the king right now.
And when you look at the branding and you look at the teams and you look at the storylines, Kevin, we're doing a show on the NFL schedule dropping. I'm like, a schedule dropping? We're doing
how much people talked about the schedule dropping, the lead up to the draft. When we knew, look, Trevor Lawrence was the guy. But the talk about the draft, how much analysis there is before the draft, how many mock drafts there are before the draft, how many shows about analyzing the draft after the draft. It's crazy, but it shows the power of the NFL. And I'll tell you this, I'll never forget going to a game in London. I was going to a soccer game. I went to go see, I can't remember who it was. And I was sitting, it was at and I was sitting in the stands next to a guy who had on a Denver Broncos jersey. And I said, "You're a Broncos fan? You from Denver? What?" And he's like, "No, I'm a Broncos fan. I'm from here, and I go every year to at least one game." And I was like, "What do you mean when one game comes here?" And he's like, "No, I go to Denver. I go to Mile High Stadium every year. I travel all the way to Denver." And that just tells you how the league around the world is, how it's viewed. I was at Craven Cottage. That's where I was, watching a game at Craven Cottage, sitting next to this guy, and he had on a Broncos jersey of all things. I'm like, follow your team, bro, not the Broncos.
Let's get into some of the storylines here. Yeah. What's your take on this Tebow story?
I think it's interesting. Here's the thing that we have to understand. Tim Tebow moves the dial. So all the haters out there who are like, why is he getting a chance? He doesn't deserve a chance, blah, 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 blah. Tim Tebow moves the dial. So if he moves the dial, then he's going to get an opportunity. Whether it works or not, who cares? Urban Meyer loves him, so Let him try it. This guy, it's like T.O. People used to hate T.O. But I was like, but he moves the dial. Sports, we sit in our meetings at Sports Center and we talk about we're going to lead with T.O. again. Of course you're going to lead with T.O. And the same thing with Tim Tebow. It gives us something to talk about. So when people say, oh, I hate that he's getting this opportunity, listen, it's what drives this machine, this media machine. Everybody loves to talk about Tim Tebow. He has so many fans. And so I'm like, enough already. Everybody, he's going to come into camp. He's going to do what he does. It probably won't work out. So who cares? Give him his chance.
You know what? And I completely agree with you. We had Charlie Ward on with us, the Heisman Trophy winner, a couple days ago. And he goes like this. He's like, this has nothing to do with Kaepernick or race or anything. It's got to do with relationships.
That's all
this guy's had a relationship with Urban Meyer for like 25 years. They were in Florida together. And quite frankly, I mean, Kevin, how many times have you caught yourself talking about the Jaguars? We're talking about the Jaguars. This thing has already worked, hasn't it? Even if he plays sporadically, right?
And then also understand what it does bringing him in. It drives an amount of attention on him and not others. And think about that for a second, that a kid like you come in and all of a sudden you're the big quarterback in the biggest setting and there's a lot of pressure on you. But instead, everybody's looking at Tim Tebow. Did he catch a ball at tight end? Did he catch a ball today? What did he do? He ran through his workout. He stretched. He did this. And nobody's focusing on the other guys who are there and really count and matter. And so I think that's an important thing to think about, that Urban Meyer reached back into the bag and he's smart. He's dealt with the media. He's been a part of the media. And so I think that there was a little bit of this was playing a game with the ability to take the pressure off the other guys.
You know what, too, Kev? Jimmy Johnson said this to us, and Dave Wannstedt also, too, speaking of Fox guys. They were like this. Well, you know what, too? Because he's a college guy, he's going to get as many Ohio State and he's going to get as many of Florida guys as he possibly can who were around his culture to put into the building so that these veteran guys that are in the building are going to know what to expect. And again, like you said, Kev, he may play only 5 games during a regular season. But what these guys are all going to do is they're going to set the tone of what Meyer wants in the locker room. Do you subscribe to that?
I do subscribe to that. And we know that system works really well in college. He's been able to plug and play wherever he's gone, and he's made it work. There's a difference in the NFL. You can't recruit. Or if you do recruit, there's a cap on who you can recruit, how many guys. And that's why you look at, look, Nick Saban's a hell of a coach. We know that. It didn't work in Miami because he couldn't go out and get his guys. When you look across the board, he's got 4- and 5-star guys. Now, the same's going to happen to Urban Meyer now. He's not getting 4- and 5-star guys that he wanted or that he had at Ohio State.
Absolutely, man. Hey, football in LA, NFL football in LA,
Sure.
How's it worked?
I think that, first of all, everybody's going to be jazzed about the new stadium, and it's going to be just an event to be seen at the new stadium, and people will be there. I still think that it was a mistake for the Chargers to come up here. I don't get it. They're going to be second-class citizens for their entire tenure here, where they own the city down in San Diego. I'm not talking about financials, so don't anybody jump on me about financials, but I do know that there was a city that loved you, and now you come in and you play second fiddle. It's same with the Clippers, The Clippers will always play second fiddle to the Lakers, even in years when they were better. Lob City still played a second fiddle to the Lakers. So it's like, find your home, make it your own, and try. I just think that, it's a lot. That's all I will say. But it'll be so sexy to be in that stadium. It's incredible. I've been in there a bunch of times already shooting stuff, and SoFi Stadium is something special.
And the Super Bowl will be there this year. And I'm wondering again, and Kev, I'm going to kind of like try to tie both of these in with sporting events and with what you're doing now with like the Academy Awards. I mean, the one thing that I think the NFL has done compared to what Hollywood has done, and again, I think everybody has a right to say and do whatever they want. They can protest, they can do whatever. But the politics of getting into the NBA, check it out. Since 2017, they've lost 48% of their audience. The Oscars, lowest rated of all time because of the politics. the NFL stays away from that, Kev. And is that one of the reasons?
This is where I disagree with you, okay? Because if you talk about those audience numbers going down, it's because people are they're streaming this stuff now. So yes, the audience is shrinking, but people are still consuming it. A lot of times people will want to see the highlights at the end of it. And I don't think that the NBA may be losing its national TV audience because you can stream it now. Everybody watches on your phone. So that doesn't count in the Nielsen rating points just yet, or sometimes it's not figured in. It's just like with the Super Bowl. They're like, oh, well, the audience is shrinking for the Super Bowl a little bit. But no, it's not, because they count the streams. People are streaming the NFL on their phone. So I will say that. Now, when it comes to politics and what's going on with the NFL, let's go back and look at what Colin Kaepernick did. And what he did now, on the other side of a long year, besides COVID and the civil unrest, we look at it and say, what he did was so simple and so little. The reaction was a lot. And the reaction was a lot because the person who knew how to blow up that reaction, the person in the White House, knew how to blow up that reaction because he's a reality TV star along with the President of the United States. So I just think that when we look back at what Colin Kaepernick did and what other people did by kneeling, a peaceful protest, and we look at how it is shaped in the last year, I mean, it was nothing. It was, what he did was so simple. It was nothing. So I think it's interesting. I don't think that the NFL has stayed clear of politics. Just the politics have been overwhelmingly one way.
I'll tell you something. You bring a great point up about – a couple last questions for you, Kev. You bring a great point up about, a silent protest. There's only one other guy that I can think who did it with John Carlos and Tommy Smith. Those guys didn't say a word to. It was a silent protest. It was the anthem. It's funny how that's resonated now and how he is looked at years removed. And you know what? I've even backed up on it, Kev, and went like this. I get his point. And I guess some of us filled in the narrative through our own eyes where it landed on the flag or it landed in a community protesting against the police or what have you. I guess you can interpret those things just like we did with Carlos and Smith any way we want because it was an image, right? They were silent protests.
Sure, but let's go back to two things first. I say the other protest that we have forgotten about is Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf when he was with the Nuggets, when he would stand away from the flag and hold his hands up because he is Muslim. And so there was that protest and people didn't like it, but it didn't get elevated to a political issue. It stayed in the sports realm. But if you go back to the guys in Mexico City and you think about what they were fighting for, because that is the year of the player boycott. We forget about that meeting with Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all those people who met together and they had an economic forum and they talked about changing the country. And we forget about how it was in America and how the advances we hadn't made yet in this country. And so these are people who said, you want me to go and run and be draped in the American flag and win gold medals, but yet when I go home, there are certain places I can't live. There are certain jobs I can't have or apply for. There are even certain schools I can't go to because in 1968, places like the SEC really hadn't integrated yet. So when you think about all that and you think about what they did, once again, you put it in a big context. It was such a small gesture. It was reminding people of what was really going on at home. It's like now we look at it and we say, oh, well, there's these big TV contracts, there's all these things going on. But if you remember, the majority of your NFL football players in 1968, the black ones, where did they come from? Historically black colleges and universities. They didn't come from the big schools. They were still coming from Grambling and Morgan State and North Carolina A&T and all these other places because those players couldn't go to big colleges. It was a big deal back then when Michigan State had that great team with Bubba Smith, that Bubba Smith left Texas and went up there and went to Michigan State. But one of the reasons he went to Michigan State is because he couldn't go to Texas.
That's right. Or the SEC. Finally here, Kev, Hollywood. You know what? I loved I get pushback on this. I didn't mind the Academy Awards this year. I was okay. And if you know what, if somebody has an opinion on something, I don't really care about that. I'm looking to be entertained. I'm looking for the industry.
You were entertained this year?
Well, no. I don't. Again, not so much so that like I have been in the past. But to me, you know what? I mean, all I'm asking is to be entertained. How do you look at the Hollywood scene right now? Does Hollywood need to redirect itself? Where do they need to go?
It's not redirect. It's bringing back the glitz and glamour. It's hard when you're in the middle of a year where COVID has kind of taken over and everybody can't be there, especially your big, glitzy, glamorous stars. There were a lot of great people there, and I thought the Academy Awards did a great job of having a show during COVID. But if you've ever been on that red carpet, just once, and to see the stars and the people that are coming down that red carpet and the excitement that's in the air, you know, when you look out in that audience and you see the biggest names in the business, you miss that. And that's what you missed. It is almost like when certain players opted out of the WNBA or NBA bubble, you're missing those players. You were missing those. There were players who, in a sense, opted out because their movies didn't come out this year. There are a lot of movies on hold, a lot of big movies. And so there was that. I think there wasn't the glitz and glamour and just the general hype around the awards this year that there has been in past years. And that's not knocking any of the movies or the people who were nominated. That is just talking about on the scale, that how they had to scale it down and how they had to work in that bubble. So it'll be fine next year. I promise you, it'll be back next year and it'll be fine.
The Hollywood Foreign Press situation, how do you see that resolving?
Goodbye. It is what it is.
Wow.
Listen. They have had time to reconcile this thing. They have had time to fix this thing. And for years, you know, they've been under fire because of the way choices are made with such a small group, you know.
You think the Golden Globes are gone?
Well, I'm curious to see if anybody will touch that hot potato. That'll be the thing. Is it worth it to anybody to pick up that hot potato? When you have somebody like Tom Cruise saying, hey, take back my Golden Globe. Here you go. Take my award back. Here, I don't want it. I don't want it. That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful statement. And it goes way beyond just it goes way beyond just that they didn't listen. They were so tone deaf that they blew a cash cow in that slot on NBC and being one of the major shows. If they drift off I have to believe that next year a lot of stars are going to boycott the Golden Globes.
It's one, if not the second biggest award in Hollywood. Boy, man, I cannot wait for that story to play out.
It's called a self-inflicted wound. And
man, Kev, it is always great. You always find time for me, man. We go back 25 years.
Yes, you do.
Brother, thank you so much for this.
Listen, it is always a pleasure. You know, whenever you call or text, I'm in. And also, congratulations. I mean,
thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. God bless, man. That's my friend, Kevin Frazier, right there, man. I just absolutely love Kevin Frazier. Wow, the Golden Globes are gone, according to Kevin, man. I completely agree with him. Wow. Holy cow. All right, we'll take a quick time out and keep it right here on the National Football Show.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Welcome back. Dan Sileo here on the National Football Show. Don't forget tomorrow, Ron Jaworski and Herm Edwards, the Arizona State head football coach, will be with us. Yeah, man, I can't wait to talk to Jaws. Great thing about Jaws, he sits all day long at NFL Films watching game tape. That's all he does, is just watch game tape. I'm going to try to get him to get some of my game tape there from the 87 season there to see if he can pull some of that stuff up against the Bears and whatnot too, because he's right there. Steve Sabol and the Sabol family have been such a major part of the National Football League, and Jaws works in that company, man. I'll tell you, it's one of the absolute best companies in National Football. The best, I would say this, the best video guys and camera people on the planet, in my opinion, they work at the NFL Network offices there when it comes to NFL Films. It's just truly one of the greatest of all time. All right. Really great catching up with Kevin Frazier. I really loved what he said about, how the NFL is just grabbing the baton now, and now it's the number one content provider. Sports is such a major part now when we're talking major television networks and what they're putting on for fans now. If it's sports related, they're going to put it on more so than anything else. It's funny, isn't it? It's like reality TV and sports run many of these networks now. All right. Let's get into a little bit of what I was teasing the last hour and a half here, a little bit about thumbs up, thumbs down. I want to do this. I do this every year as we get closer to going to the minicamp. The major minicamp is coming up. What happens when a player gets drafted, majority of the teams around the National Football League will have a rookie minicamp. And what they do is they bring in guys, and they just bring in the rookies and free agents. And they put these guys together. They see what they got. They want the guys all to start getting acclimated to being involved in the NFL life. That's what a rookie minicamp does. Then what they do is they get you ready for the upcoming minicamp that you have with the veterans, and also you put the rookies together and everybody's there. And you know what? This is your last rehearsal before you go to training camp. Back in the day when I was younger, you could be a fat body and show up to training camp and you had 3 months to get yourself in shape. That's not necessarily the case anymore. You've got to be primed and ready to rock and roll when you're going into an NFL football season now. That's why, back in the day, we used to have, days off. We used to have some, time where we could have to ourselves. That's not the case any longer. It's just not the case. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get into talking about thumbs up, thumbs down. And as I was telling you, and I was giving you the parameters of how I do this, I look at respected divisions, rosters, coaching staff, and what I do is I tell you whether or not. Now, I don't give records. It's stupid. No, if you're, I heard people talking about the Eagles coming season, and people are saying that the Eagles could win 12 games. The Eagles are not winning 12 ball games. The Eagles will be lucky to win 5 ball games. I'll get to them. But records now, Really? May 17th, you're going to put a record out there. How dumb is that? Why don't you at least get into the exhibition season before you start putting numbers to a winning season or a losing season? Okay? But what I will tell you is, did they do enough to give me optimism going into the upcoming minicamp and then into the fall camp in July? Let's take a look at it now. The Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are continuing to get better and better and better and better and better every single year under Sean McDermott. And what you're loving, what they're doing now is they're showing you a lot of balance on how they win at home and how they win on the road and what they're doing inside the division. You got to remember something, man. Inside the conference a year ago, they were 10-2. Think of that for a minute. Inside the AFC, they were 10-2. In the division, they were 6-0. Okay? I mean, that's exceptional. At home, they're 7-1. You talk about, like, getting better and better with Josh Allen. McDermott has done a fabulous job. I'd like to see them get a little bit more in the running game, but I would tell you this flat out. The Buffalo Bills right now are one of the best teams and one of the best rosters in the AFC. They made limited amount of moves. That Stephon Diggs deal that they did a year ago with Rick Spielman, who's the general manager of the Vikings, bringing him in, has panned out. This thing panned out. How about this? That Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo has panned out more, actually, than what the DeAndre Hopkins deal did for Arizona. Thumbs up for Buffalo. Miami Dolphins. I think it's a thumbs up. And I'm going to tell you, I'm still a little bit suspect on Tua Tagovailoa, but I'm a huge fan of Chris Greer and a huge fan of what Brian Flores is doing. Of all the coaches that Bill Belichick has had, he was there 14 years in New England. I think they're better on defense. They did a nice job when it came to, winning games at home. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. They were balanced. They were 5-3 home and away, but I like the Dolphins. Thumbs up for them. They're getting better. Patriots, this is going to be an interesting one here. They're going to get a boatload of opt-ins, okay? Plus, when does Mac Jones get on the field? They're a first-round draft choice out of Alabama. Will Cam have a better year? See, when I start asking questions out of the gate, makes me think right around the 500 mark. They were 7-9. Is this a playoff team, head coach? I think this is a year whether or not we determine whether he is going to have a playoff year and whether or not Bill Belichick ever has a winning season ever again. This is going to be a big year in New England. I do think they're trending up. Not a lot, because I asked two questions out of the gate. They're going to get a thumbs up. Actually, now when you look at it, I think the AFC East is actually going to get a thumbs up. The Jets, are they thumbs up? Look, I'm not going to sit here and do this to you. Well, they drafted Zach Wilson, so they're going to be a better football team. Why would I say that? They've destroyed every quarterback that's ever gone into that landfill. The Jets have never been good. They've had a couple spotty years. Outside of that, they've never been good. I've got to see it first. Thumbs down. I'm still not sold on the Jets. I'll never be sold on the Jets. Show me consistency. The entire AFC East, though, thumbs up. The North in the AFC. Steelers, you get Najee Harris? Hey, man, you sucked on 3rd and 1 a year ago. They need a little bit better help at the linebacking core, but you got Mike Tomlin there, man. One of the top defensive-minded guys there is. I'm putting him in the Steelers. Now, will Ben walk back because he's 38? I don't think they're going to put him in a position where he has to throw the ball 35, 36 times. I think the Steelers are always trending up. How about the Ravens? The Ravens are such a great organization. I don't know how people don't look at the Ravens and go like this. The Ravens under John Harbaugh and Steve Bisciotti, those guys are so good at what they do when it comes to organizing and constructing a roster. Always Ravens. And then they get Calais Campbell. They improve their defense. Ravens are always thumbs up. The Browns, thumbs up, man. AFC's looking pretty good here, aren't they? I think this is one of the better rosters. Is Baker Mayfield the guy, though? Kevin Stefanski did a great job with him a year ago. As long as you keep feeding those two guys, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and you can get people on the ground, you now added Jadeveon Clowney, Browns look good, man. Thumbs up. The Bengals, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Got him a wide receiver, the kid from LSU. Kind of paired him up with his guy from LSU. Joe Burrow comes back from his knee injury. They address some of their needs on defense. I think the Bengals are trending up. I like the Bengals. That entire North division is trending up. Titans, I think they walk back a little bit defensively. But Mike Vrabel's such a great coach. 11-5 a year ago. They're going to be in the same boat. Anytime that you have that movable machine and anytime that you have that guy in the backfield, man, you're going to move the chains. They play good enough defense. I think they're a good football team. They're still thumbs up. The Colts, great thumbs up. I think Wentz has a Pro Bowl year. I think he goes in there. I think Frank Reich puts everything on him. And I think that football team, defensively, they're strong. They're going to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. I'm a big bull. I'm bullish on the Colts getting to the AFC title game. The Texans, backwards. That's a chaotic franchise. Chaotic. The Jags, and that's all I'm going to say. There's nothing else to say about them. Deshaun Watson, I don't know. The Jaguars, I think trending up. But guess what? Here's an outlier. I don't know how Urban's going to be as a head coach in the NFL. I don't know how Trevor Lawrence is going to be. I have no idea. These guys are college guys. It's a whole different world, man, when you're talking NFL. I think that South Division, I think it's okay. I think it's kind of like okay. It's not great. The West, wow. Chiefs, trending up. Orlando Brown, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, hello. The Raiders, trending down, thumbs down. My opinion, John Gruden, 19-29 going into this thing. Come on, dude. If this ain't the year, when? I think the Chargers are trending up. That's a good-looking football team led by Justin Herbert. The Broncos, Drew Lock, give me a break, trending down. The West, it's a good division at the top. Over in the NFC, Washington, really? Fitzmagic? Needed to address that position, and you didn't. Okay? Trending down. Giants, trending down. Sorry. Well, you get Saquon Barkley back. Yeah, but who's your quarterback? Oh, yeah, that's right. Dimes Jones, give me a break. Cowboys. In the mid, you know what? I'm going to go trending up because they solidified the quarterback position with Dak. Philadelphia, trending down. You dumped everything. Fired your coach. You fired the quarterback. And you're starting over with nobody and all these uncertain questions you have. Philadelphia would be lucky to win 5 ball games. They didn't even win 5 games last year. That's not a 12-win team. I heard some idiot saying that. Come on, man. Packers, all with the understanding that Aaron Rodgers is there, still trending up. They kept Aaron Jones. They're a couple crappy calls away from being in the Super Bowl. Bears, I'm going to keep them in the middle. I hate to do that and straddle the fence. We'll see about Justin Fields. Minnesota Vikings, still got an issue at quarterback. But, man, Devin Bush can run the ball, can he? I love that team. I think they flopped around last year, and I don't know why. The Lions, the kneecap guy. The Lions are the Lions. They're like the Jets. They suck. They're trending down. Saints, trending down. Who? Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill? Good luck. Buccaneers, massively trending up. Thumbs up. Carolina, I don't know. Sam Darnold, I don't know. I guess up. Falcons, up. You're getting Kyle Pitts, best player in the draft. I think Atlanta's going to be one of my surprise teams. Seahawks, thumbs up. I think Russell Wilson goes in there, puts that team on their back. They could be in the NFC title game. Rams, they get Matthew Stafford, thumbs up. Arizona Cardinals, thumbs up. They get J.J. Watt. 49ers, Trey Lance, and a healthy Garoppolo, in my opinion. Guys, that's going to make for a very interesting year. Okay? A very interesting year in San Francisco. You know, when do you put Trey Lance in? You're not going to put him in if Jimmy Garoppolo is 6-2 and you're sitting there going, when do we get the guy in here, man? Do we start, do we put the guy in? Because Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Trey Lance will ever be. I mean, how about this? I'll back up. I don't know anything about Trey Lance. I've only seen like YouTube videos of the guy. Hell, I could put YouTube videos together of myself. Okay, I got more YouTube videos of me than Trey Lance does of himself. All right. Hope you had a great one. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have Ron Jaworski with us from NFL Films, and we will also have our friend Herm Edwards, the head football coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils. You can catch all of our interviews at the JAKIB Media channel. We'll catch you tomorrow going 4 to 6 Eastern time, and you keep it pinned right here on the National Football Show.